I'm sure everyone in the Battlefield community has special memories with the Bad Company series. When the game made its way onto the shelves, it became a punching bag for various numbers in the community, for being a spin-off title, and therefore it didn't so much be deserved to be declared as a true entry for the franchise. Today though, Bad Company 2 in particular is looked up upon by the community as one of the best games in the Battlefield series, if not the best. It's been 7 years since the game released, and even to this day, the community is still talking about it. With Battlefield 1 now having been out for 10 months, players have seemingly had their fill on the content to expect from that title. So questions are starting to rise of what will be the setting for Battlefield 2018, the next Battlefield game. Bad Company 3, from what I've seen, has got to be probably one of the most fan-requested sequels to happen from any community in the gaming industry. Now, whilst I may jump over several important factors to reach this conclusion, I do personally think that Bad Company 3 is not going to happen anytime soon. This is not taken with a personal standpoint because I would love to see Bad Company 3 happen. But when I look at it from a business perspective and today's cultural audience of video games, I must admit that Bad Company 3 might be too much of a risk. So this video is no attempt at all to bring those down who are wanting this game, because it still may well happen. I just think it's best for us to look at the possibilities realistically rather than just hope for this to happen. Now, let's not waste any time by going over the reasons why Bad Company 2 was so good and why we want the sequel so bad. I will briefly mention it when it's necessary, but I'm sure many of you watching already know the story. Despite how loud and vocal the community has been towards the spin-off series, from a financial standpoint from EA and DICE, where the goal for them is simply just to make as much profit as possible with their new projects, there is a risk of bringing a game like Bad Company 2 that was released back in 2010 and bring it into the modern aspect of gaming and still make it work. What I mean by this is that if we take the nostalgia out of this for a minute, when you go back and play Bad Company 2 today, after playing recent Battlefield games, it feels to me a little bit clunky. You can't move your character diagonally, the movement speed is much slower, and some of the mechanics in the game feel a little outdated. Now, would EA have the will to take the risk and try and bring a game like that into the modern day of the first-person shooter genre? And whilst, if they just released Bad Company 3 and made it feel like the other Bad Company, us players who are fans of the Bad Company series, of course, would be over the moon. But what about the more modern aspect players on the other side? People like the casual gamers. Could they see the appeal in a game, for a safe choice of words, isn't quite their type? And I'm just looking at this from a financial perspective, not our perspective. But with that said, all of the design choices that might not make it into today's FPS genre are some of the main reasons as why we love a game like Bad Company 2 so much. It was being its own character, and it came out at a time when Call of Duty was near its peak, so Battlefield simply brought a lot of uniqueness to the table. I mean, when you compare Battlefield 3 in 2011 to Battlefield 1 in 2016, you can spot a very similar formula in terms of gunplay, pacing and style. Now, if Bad Company 3 does happen, and DICE decided to just change up a few things to fit the modern aspect of the FPS genre, if they make the smallest of mistakes during development, it will quite frankly ruin the experience and corrupt the memories for the players who loved the first two games. Like if they decided to make the gameplay very much like recent Battlefield games and just slap on Bad Company 3 as the name, it would simply feel, to a certain extent, a misleading project. And when there's a 50-50 chance of satisfying the new buyers who have never played those games, if they don't see the appeal in it either, it would simply be a wasted investment. And what really puts this concern to bed, for me at least, a DICE developer was interviewed a few years ago by Eurogamer, and he openly admitted that the development team was very surprised by the immense amount of support this game received years after its initial release. When the game first came out, DICE did have confidence in the product, but they did not expect it to still be talked about to this very day. So I'm not going to state my opinion as fact here, but if DICE are so surprised of the series having an unprecedented amount of success, and now 7 years later, they might have as much of an idea as we do on how they can make the game work for both old and new fans. One example I can give of this kind of concern on a financial side is Halo 5. When you compare Halo 3 in 2007 to Halo 5 in 2015, you might be surprised that both games are part of the same franchise. You can say whatever you want about Halo 5, but the game was simply designed to fit the current mood of the FPS genre, whilst the developers did their best to still keep hold of that original formula. But the catch is, Halo 5, at least for a Halo game, did not sell very well compared to Halo 3. So when it comes to Bad Company 3, you can look at it from both ways. Players do want changes and tweaks made when their favourite franchises release their new installments, but at the same time, the game must still maintain that gameplay formula that it's known for in previous titles. But like I said, for a game like Bad Company 2 that is starting to show its age by today's standards, would DICE attempt to bring that type of experience back, and more importantly, would EA take the risk? Despite those concerns that the development teams might face during development for this game, personally as a fan, I am so desperate for a new Bad Company game, as so many of you watching I would assume as well. We miss those amazing rush maps, we miss those impressive DLC expansions, we miss that style of gameplay, and for me at least, what I miss the most is Marlow, Sweetwater, Haggard, and Redford from the single player, which by the way, ended in a cliffhanger. I want that to be brought back again, but if the consequence for the developers is to sacrifice the past game's best parts to make it sell better for the FPS market, is it really worth it? If you guys have opinions, which I'm sure you do, be sure to leave them in the comments below, and if you can, explain perhaps how you think DICE could potentially craft Bad Company 3 in terms of its gameplay and flow. Drop a rating on this video if you find it necessary, and be sure to subscribe for more future content on the channel. Thank you for watching guys, hope you enjoyed it, and enjoy the rest of your day guys. Take care of yourselves.